Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Monday, the 27th of September, 2021. Thank you for tuning in. Glad to have you guys here. What do we got going on with the power grids around the world? All of them. Seems like they all got problems, big problems. The power grids are just like I don't know. Well, China has got huge problems with their power grid right now. Let's get in there and let's take a look and see what the problems are. Let's turn the charts on right here. China's in a power crunch and it's spreading across the country. It's shutting down factories and it's dimming what's called dimming global growth outlook. Uh, it says here Beijing, widening power shortages in China have halted production in numerous factories, including many supplying Apple, Tesla, while some shops in the Northeast operated by candlelight, and malls are shutting early. And the economic toll of the squeeze is mounting. China is in the grip of a power crunch as a shortage of coal supplies, toughened emission standards, and strong demand from manufacturing and industry have pushed coal prices to record highs and triggered widespread curbs on usage. Rationing has been implemented during the peak hours in many parts of the northeastern China since last week, and residents of cities including Shanghai said cuts were occurring sooner and lasting longer, state media reported. On Monday, the State Grid Corporation pledged to ensure basic power supply and avoid electricity cuts. The power crunch has hurt production in industries across several regions of China and is dragging on, and the country's economic growth outlook is being affected or impacted. It says here that the impact on homes and non-industrial users comes at nighttime temperatures slip to near freezing in China's northernmost cities. It doesn't look to me like this problem's going to go away anytime soon either. In fact, it might get worse. Then we got the the Evergrande situation going on in China. I'll talk about that for a minute. What do we know so far? A lot of talk on YouTube, some of them saying it's going to be a big problem. Some people are saying it's not going to be nothing, uh, the Evergrande problem. But what do we really know is actually going on? Well, China has basically said to Evergrande, all those 1.6 million houses you've got sold to people already, people have made the down payment on it and everything, get to work and build them. Basically, that's what China said. Really, when China's talking to Evergrande now, from what I understand, China has taken over that company. They're in government hands now. It's in government hands, and so all this talk about Evergrande closing, you hear on the internet everybody saying, "Oh, Evergrande's gonna go defunct and gonna stop and gonna close and everything else." Well, the Chinese are saying, "Get to work and build those 1.6 million homes." Well, you can't close a business down and build the homes too at the same time. The two don't go together. So, uh, China wants them to build those homes means that they're going to be a company still, but it's a Chinese company. It's a Chinese company. And now at this point, they owe all that money, $305 billion. What else do we see? Well, we don't see them paying on those loans. So that's the situation right now, the way it stands. Evergrande is, the Chinese government is getting them to build those homes, but at the same time, they're not paying on their 305 billion dollars worth of. They're not making the payment, not meeting the payments requirements. So that's the situation where it stands right now. How long will that company continue to be functioning? Well, I don't know. But I do know what the situation is right now. Now let's take a look in here at the silver price. There's a lot going on in China right now, with their power grid and everything. But you know what? Our power grid is not the be all end all. Look at what happened to those people in Texas. And that wasn't that long ago. And I'm going to tell you, our power grid is just like, see, the power grid, when people talk about the power grid's all interconnected now. Not from east to west. The Chinese power grid's not connected to our power grid, but our power grid over here in North America is one big, giant, enormous grid. When they were putting it in originally, what they should have done is they should have made it area specific, and had it so that area doesn't connect to the power grid in a different area. But they didn't put it in that way. The way they put it is it's all one big, ginormous grid. All interconnected. So the power flows through the whole thing. It's like, so this is why you can get massive outages over a massive area. And to get that grid back up and running, too, even. If the whole grid goes down, they got a problem even getting it back, because what happens is when they put the power in it, the power tends to want to go through the whole grid. So if you try to start an area, if the whole grid goes down, and you try to bootstrap and get an area up and running again, it's all interconnected to the rest, and it's going to suck that power out of that part of the grid and move it into other parts of the grid, and it's going to require too much power to get it up and running. See? They got that problem. That's a huge problem. So the whole grid has to stay up, or the whole grid goes down, and then they got a big problem trying to boot start it to get back up again. See? If the whole grid were to go down. It's an enormous mess that they've gotten us into. Going back to the 1800s, when we had horse and buggies and we didn't have any power in any house, we weren't reliant upon them. Every time we move one step closer to being reliant upon them is a bad thing, a very bad thing. We should very quickly, mankind needs to start disconnecting from them and making their own resources, so so we're not reliant upon them in any way or shape or form. This is the best way for us to actually protect ourselves from this system. We need to protect ourselves from it. It's turning into a monster that's out to get us. We need to protect ourselves from it by making ourselves not resource dependent upon this system, because this system has gone corrupt. It's gone so that you can't. It's become unreliable. The Chinese are finding that out today. There's people in China right now who are their houses are cold right now and dark, and that could be coming to North America here at some point. And so you need to make yourself less reliant upon the power grid, more reliant upon yourself. Anyway, we're looking at silver today. It's up $4.70 today so far at $1,754. And it looks like it had a little bounce in price, but not much. Let me take a look at silver now. That's gold. Take a look at silver. Silver's $22.73 today. It's up 34 cents. Better than nothing. Better than knocking it down, which they continue to do for ages now. That's why the price is so cheap. Compared to everything else that's went up in price. Silver and gold hasn't. It hasn't seen this inflationary increase in price. And in fact, it's way down from its all-time high, silver is, right now. And if you inflation adjusts that, so like it was $50 years and years ago, back when a dollar would buy something. Now to equal that, it'd probably have to be about $200 or more to equal the purchasing power of that $50 back when it was up to $50. Silver was up to $50. Some of you guys might not know that, but that was a long, long time ago. Now it's $22.73 in the midst of all this inflation. makes it probably some of the cheapest silver it's ever been, or close to it. You know, considering how much it costs to get it out of the ground, you know, and turn it into a coin form so that you guys can buy it 999 pure or whatever. And this is absolutely ridiculous, you know, but they've had to do this. They've had to do this to protect the dollar. And that's why they've turned a blind eye to all this manipulation. It's all about the dollar. Let's take a look now at cryptocurrencies. And cryptocurrencies is 1,934 billion. So it's holding its own right now. And Bitcoin price is 43,440 for Bitcoin. Now we're going to take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average today, and we're looking at 35,000. We're looking at, it's up 242 points on the day. So let's get a little boost up. We're going to take a look now at crude oil. Is at 75.59, and it's up $1.71. Now that's a pretty good sized jump for crude oil, 2.31% up. We're going to take a look at the Asian markets, and we're seeing that the Shanghai is down today, the Shanghai Composite, and the Nikkei is down today. The Japanese market is down over 2% today. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see in the markets, I think that the potential for an eastern drop in the eastern markets, the Asian markets, could extend over to the western markets, you know, at a certain point in time. We're going to have to watch that very carefully because of what's happening with Evergrande, you know, and because of what's happening with their dropping factory production in China, because they got no power. A lot of factories got no power right now. And over here in the West, look at what Jerome Powell did just quite recently. They've cut off all of this stimmy. That was a big thing, you know. People were getting their stimmy checks and they were going out and buying products from China. Now all that's gone all of a sudden. So demand in the West for Chinese-made goods is going to drop off. At the same time, factory production in China is dropping off right now. And what about the Chinese real estate market, worth $55 trillion? A slight devaluation in that because it's such an enormous amount of capital tied up in the Chinese real estate market. And I can't see any other way around it but Chinese property developers right now. Their creditworthy status is going to be affected by this Evergreen situation because Evergreen is one of the biggest property developers. And we got all these property developers in China, you know, and all these properties, they're going to start selling off some of them Evergrande in order to pay their bills. And they're going to be selling them at discount. So even a slight discount in the Chinese property sector can affect that $55 trillion worth of nominal value of the whole Chinese property sector, which is an enormous amount. So if we're looking at maybe, say, a 5% drop, or so, let's just say a 10% drop in the price of real estate in China, that would be $5.5 trillion. Just a 10% drop would be $5.5 trillion. See how that could affect the world's economy? Anyway, let's move on now and take a look now at the MOVE Index, which is up today just a little bit. It's at 58.46. Nothing to really see there too much. Bonds and rates today, we're looking at rising yields. Now, this is a story, too, right here going on with these bond yields that have been rising like crazy glue the last week or so. And we're getting the 10-year up to nearly 1.5%. The 10-year's at 1.47, and we're the U.S. 30 years almost 2% at 1.994, and they're rising again today. If these bond yields continue to rise, guys, it's going to start to make the markets roll over if they continue to rise, these yields. And they're rising because I'm going to tell you, if we see these yields falling, and we see them rising, it means something in the economy. It's the bonds tend to get it right more than the stock market and equities, and more than, because these traders, they know what's really going on. They can sense it ahead, a little bit ahead, and if it's going to be inflation, the market will move one way, and if it's going to be deflation, the market will move the opposite direction in these bond yields. So when we get these yields rising, what it actually means is bonds are falling. And when we got these yields falling, it means that bonds are rising. So a bull bond market, you're going to see yields fall. So this is the opposite of a bull market. This is a bear. This is bearish action when you consider the bond market when the yields are rising, because it works in inverse. So yields are rising, and we're expecting a little. That means that the bond traders out there are saying, hey, there's inflation in the system. We need to get more for our money. We need to get a higher yield on these bonds. You get bond yields going in the opposite direction, and the thing about it is inflation expectation. What the markets do nowadays is they always tend to price things in ahead of time. Markets tend to price things in ahead of time, and this is called front running. They always front run everything now. So if the Fed makes a statement, what they'll do is they'll get right in there and they'll front run that statement. And so what we'll see is moves in the markets ahead of something happening, before something happens, if they just expect it's going to happen. And so it's these expectations, that can affect this bond market and make it move, make yields rise. So here we go, boys. We're seeing a lot of action to the upside in these yields rising. Let's take a... They can't let this go too far. They got to service their debt. The United States is enormous debt. And there's another thing, the debt ceiling. They're getting ready with the debt ceiling to raise it, guys. They're getting ready to raise the debt ceiling. They cannot let that go too much further. You're going to see some action now, guys, in the debt ceiling. You're going to see they're going to sit down together and they're going to hash something out, because they know that they're next. Once they, this is the way with the politicians, They'll drag their heels on almost every issue, but if they know they're next on the line, they got to really get it done, they'll get it done. Watch them get it done. Now that they know that it's got really big, it's big time bad stuff's going to happen. If they don't get it done, they'll get it done. It's just the same way with everybody else out there. It works the same way. You got a deadline, if you cross that deadline. A lot of people will wait till the last day of the deadline, and then they'll go out and get it done on that last day. And it's the same way in government now. They're going to get it done right away, the debt ceiling, and you watch. They'll put something through, some sort of a extension or something. Something will come through with that. They're not going to let that. They're not going to go over the line on that because the consequences are too dire. So that's coming. Okay, let's take a look now at the dollar. And we're seeing the dollar is 93.32 today. And it looks like it's going sideways today. Started to fall a little bit now, but it's basically going sideways today. Stay tuned for the pets, guys. Okay, here's the pets for today. Our first pet comes in from Dale. And he says, here's my dog and cat, Wilma. Wilma is an 11-year-old blue heeler. And Stewie's a 10-year-old cat. He says, I've had them since birth. My best buddies for sure. They get along great, two of them. Oh, there they are. Okay, now the next pet photo comes to us from Billy Johnson. And he says, this picture is Tux. He's a feral tomcat. And he says, I've been feeding him for about a year now. I've been working at gaining his trust, and I've made some progress. I don't care much for the word feral. I prefer the word sovereign. So this is Sovereign Tux. He's a beautiful, independent cat, and he'll never be ruled or owned by anyone. He is a beautiful cat and has the most unique meow I've ever heard. So this is Tux. And now on the next pet photo we're going to take a look at, it comes from James. And this is Socks. And Socks is an excellent boy. And he's in the United Kingdom. And right now he really wants to get that cup that's up on top of the shelf. And he's up on his tiptoes trying to get it. Okay, that concludes our pets for today. Listen, thank you guys for listening to my show. Remember, like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you know when I put a show on the air. And we'll catch you guys in the very next episode. Bye-bye.